It's time for Reason.
And tell me once where we've cut anything in the state budget since 2012. Hasn't happened. We've increased in educational spending, K through 12 and higher education. We've increased spending on this program, on that program. We've cut zero, zilch, nothing, nada. So lower state funding for higher education, part of that is completely false. Then you see the declining enrollment at K-State. Why do you think that there's a lower enrollment? It's too expensive.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. You finally made it, my friends. It is the day we all look forward to every single week, as they say, every day leads to Friday. Welcome in, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. We love being on there as well, streaming, simulcasting. Also, by the way, the delayed tape tonight from 6 to 9 p.m. They replay that every single evening, so that way you can wake up with me and go to bed with me each and every night. Welcome in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. It is, it's a Friday. As usual, that means today's is your day. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about, chat about? Let's have a little fun today. There's a lot to get to. What do you say? Come on. That's what I'm talking about. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, I'd love to hear from you today. Boy, there's a lot of big news happening. We have been through the ringer and a half this week. We have gone through a lot of emotion. We've gone through a lot of different issues. There's been a lot of hot topics, mostly focused around immigration, obviously. And as you may or may not have heard, but yesterday the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. ends up voting on an immigration bill, and it doesn't actually end up working. It didn't go very far. And it was actually the conservative bill, 193 to 231. That was the final vote for the bill. The conservatives favored. The GOP leaders delayed the vote on a compromise immigration bill for later on. The vote on final passage of the compromise bill, originally scheduled, was going to be for yesterday evening, being moved to Friday today to provide more time to answer members' questions about the bill. Well, because we create bills that we don't know what's in it. So instead of having the time to read it and understand it, then we just end up just asking specialist questions who wrote it and then hoping that's what's actually in it and then voting on it yay or nay that way. That's how the bills are worked. And that's really why potentially the conservative bill that was actually rejected yesterday was shot down, because, well, they didn't like what was in it. Now, this was the conservative bill to where it would have funded the wall. It would have ended chain migration. It would have actually been able to stop the quote-unquote separation of the families. And it would have been a solid it would have dealt with DACA. It would have not given anybody amnesty, and that's why the Democrats didn't like it. Not a single Democrat voted for this bill, which means what? If it didn't pass and every Democrat voted no, what does that mean? That means that Republicans were the ones that shot themselves in the foot by not allowing it to happen. We talk about cleaning up the party. We talk about trying to advance a basic commonsensical Republican value of limited government, less regulation, enforcing the rule of law. That's just normal procedure. That's the way Republicans should be operating. And when Republicans don't like it, well then, shocker, there are some that actually voted against it, 41 of them to be exact. Now, I do give credit, and we have to thank our legislators in the state of Kansas. Congressman Ron Estes co-sponsored the bill. All four of our congressional districts and congressional members in the state of Kansas, all four of them voted positive and voted for the bill. So we do give them thanks for that. It didn't go through, but you know what? They did their part. They advocated for it. They supported it. They co-sponsored it, and they voted for it in the end. So we thank them for what they did. Unfortunately, it didn't go through, but not the fault of what our legislators could have done or could not have done. They did their part. And that's all that we can ask of them. If other states have individuals and legislators that don't get on board with Republican values, then that's their own fault. That's their problem. That's what they have to deal with. But here in the state of Kansas, we did the best that we could, and all four of our congressional members ended up voting for the immigration bill. And it's It's heartbreaking that it didn't go through because would it have gone through the Senate? No. Is it really shocking? No. Is it really surprising? Not really, not necessarily. But at least our congressional members did vote for the bill. So that was big news, of course, as we see not only the executive order to end the separation of families, but then we are moving forward with some type of bill. Now, here's my assumption of what's going to happen. The Senate is going to vote for probably not this bill, probably their own bill, and then they're going to reconvene and be able to try and mesh the two together after they vote on the compromise bill today in the House. I don't know what the compromise is going to look like. I don't know what there is to compromise about immigration right now. Do we want amnesty? No. Are we going to build the wall? Yes. Are we going to deal with DACA? Yes. I don't know what there is to compromise about. Unless you're compromising and saying, yeah, let's give amnesty to individuals. Let's just say, I know you've broken the law. I know that you've been here for a really long time. I know that you're not supposed to be here because, well, you broke the law. So we're just going to let you off scot-free and let you go about your business and go do your thing. That's not okay with me. That's not okay with a lot of individuals. That's usually not okay with you. That's not okay for a lot of individuals, and we need to be able to stand firm on this. What we need to do is hold off on immigration until after the midterm election, when we can get more Republicans and we can get more conservatives into both chambers, because I do not see the blue wave happening. The downside of that is if they do end up winning a couple more seats, and it's going to be more difficult. But you know what? Then we can continue to fight. We can try to obstruct the Democrats, which is unfortunate because we hopefully still be in the majority. Or if they do take the majority, then we need to become the obstructionists again, because guess what? Unfortunately, the Republicans are really good at obstructing, not very good at leading. You would think 41 Republicans out of the House, you would think that Republican leadership would be putting so much pressure on these Republicans that they would end up voting for a Republican conservative bill that addresses immigration. Why would the 41 Republicans not vote for this? That's what I want to know. Why would they not vote for it? Doesn't make any sense to me. We have Republican majority. We have a lot of pressure going into a midterm election. The Republicans are panicky about a blue wave happening. They are getting heat from their constituents about addressing the issue, and they're concerned because this is too harsh. Because they said, according to this bill, the Goodlatte bill that was voted on yesterday and shot down, that individuals that are here illegally could be arrested and punished severely and stripped from their families here in the homeland because they're here illegally. And I say, oh my dear. I know it sounds a little drastic, but come on, give me a break. Give me a break. So the Goodlatte bill being voted down yesterday, again, 41 Republicans not voting for it. They ended up with the final bill 193 to 231 in the nay. That one being shot down. That was the conservative bill. That was it. That's the chance that we had right there, which is a little frustrating. What do we do now? I don't know. They want the compromise bill. I have no idea what the compromise bill is going to look like. We have Chuck Schumer in the Senate saying that they don't even want to vote for any type of immigration bill because they want to demonize Trump going into the election. And then the lunacy of the left-wing progressives think that that's actually going to be good because Republicans should be able to ram it through past them so that way they can hate us for us doing things without them and being nonpartisan or being only partisan with one side because they refuse to actually accept anything other than pure whatever they want and they get. You see how the shenanigans of politics is played? They get to stand firm and say, no, we will not vote for a single thing. Not a single Democrat voted for this bill. Not a single Democrat is being, all the Democrats are being told not to vote for a single immigration bill on the Senate side by Chuck Schumer. So which means we have to get every single Republican to rally to be able to support this. And we have a few of those, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, John McCain, that do not want to support anything of common sense and actually fixing the immigration problem or actually wanting to enforce anything that may be tough or mean or really harsh or really scary. So how do we actually get immigration policy done? How do we enforce immigration? How do we get the wall built? How do we actually deal with DACA? How do we deal with the chain migration? How do we deal with the process and actually make this better? How do we do that when 0 Democrats are going to vote for it, which means we have to do it ourselves so that way they can try and demonize us, and we still have members of the Republican Party that refuse to get on board with Republican values? That's the question we have. Because we just had 41 Republicans shoot down the only conservative option that we had when it came to immigration. What now? What now? Why they brought this up during the election time again, I have no idea. And why Republicans feel like they needed to address it right now, I have no idea. We needed to wait until the midterm election in order to get anything done. Because this is turning out exactly the same way that it happened back in February. Nothing different. The only difference is that now they have a compromise bill, to which they're going to try, and maybe it'll pass, maybe it won't. I don't know, but how much are they going to compromise? Is it going to be worth it? I mean, I'm all for compromise and trying to settle for gaining 30% of our goal instead of 100% of our goal. But at the same time, if we're not going to deal with the DACA issue, if we're just going to give amnesty, that's not even a compromise. That's just giving away the cow, baby. That's everything that we have. If we give amnesty to illegal aliens for the third time in the last 30, 40 years, if we end up allowing DACA to remain and just extend that and just allow everybody to do their thing, if we allow the chain migration to continue, then what, number one, what have we fixed? And number two, what did we actually hold on to ourselves when we compromised? What did we get out of it? Nothing, if that's what the compromise is going to look like. And then they're going to say, well, that was the only option that we had because we didn't have enough numbers to do what we really needed to do. Okay. And I understand that we can try something else again a little bit later, but give me a break. Stop selling the milk and giving away the cow, for crying out loud. 316-721-8255. Your thoughts on that vote. But again, I do respect, and I think very, very much so, all 4 congressional members here in the state of Kansas, Ron Estes, Roger Marshall, Lynn Jenkins, Kevin Yoder, all 4 of them voting for the conservative immigration reform bill yesterday. Just unfortunately, it wasn't enough in order to be able to make it go through. Your thoughts and calls, 316-721-8255, line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Eddie.
Good morning, Eddie. How are you, sir?
Fine. I have 2 comments. First of all, at night between 6 and 9, for about the past 2 or 3 weeks, your program has been on maybe twice. I don't, unless it's on another channel except 2610.
They do replay on channel 2610. They do replay the program from the day, so they'll record it during the day while we do this live in the morning here, and then they'll replay it in the evenings.
But the replay in the evening, between 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock on 2610, it has not been there.
Oh, it has not been there. Oh, okay. Well, I'll reach out to them and see. Maybe they've had an issue or maybe they changed some of the programming, but I was not aware of that, so I appreciate that.
Unless they put it on another channel. Okay.
We were talking about that for a while, so that may be. They may have switched it over. I'll have to reach out and see.
But anyway, I heard you mention it this morning, and I thought I'd just give you a shout out that because I have all kinds of TV sets at my house, and one is always on that, and it's never there. Anyway, as far as immigration goes, I think there's 2 problems here. I think there's 2 group of people, actually more, but it seems like we have these very fine, good people. A lot of them are Republicans that think that if you're against immigration, you're not being a good Christian or not being a good person,
right,
which is wrong. And then you have another group of, then you have the politicians that they don't care who votes for them as long as they're reelected.
Sure.
To them, it's even Republicans, it's much, much more important to them to be reelected than it is to take care of the country.
Sure.
And I've seen that over and over again, even locally, where it's 10 times more important to be elected and they think they really feel important because they're a politician, and they would sell their soul to Satan to stay in office.
Sure. No, I completely agree. I mean, when it comes down to it and being the quote unquote insider politician and trying to understand how the campaigns are going and to get the numbers, you're right. I mean, when it comes down to it, in order to stay in office, they do whatever it takes to be able to get enough votes. The problem is that when they get a little panicky about an election and they're worried about getting reelected and getting those number of votes, they don't think that the base that got them elected originally is going to be there enough in order to maintain that vote and that support in order to keep them in office. So what they do is they end up wavering on some of their policies and some of their values and issues in order to try and gain new people. And when it comes to maybe the moderates, when it comes to an independent, when it comes to the other side of the aisle, in order to try and win some of them over because they're scared of the reelection, because maybe they feel that the district's changed or it's evolved or more people are there, or whatever the case is. They're worried that it's changed and that their base won't be there to back them up. And that's the big problem that every politician has, because if they stick to their roots, if they stick to their principles, if they stick to what they got elected on, then the people that voted for them in the first place that got them in the seats will continue to vote for them, and then they don't have anything to worry about. And that's really the biggest issue that the majority of politicians have every election cycle.
And I will say this about the Mexicans that I've come across in Wichita, 99.99, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, the ones that I've come across are very fine people. They're very good people. Their children are very fine people, except that they're just, bless their hearts, they're just in the wrong country. And that's sad.
Well, that is very true. Eddie, I appreciate the call, my friend, very much. I mean, talking about, some of the Hispanic community. I mean, I told you before, Cinco de Mayo, one of my neighbors, she's Hispanic, and they had the massive party for Cinco de Mayo, and they had the live band out there, and they had the smoke and the strobe lights and everything going on. And we sat in our backyard and listened to it and enjoyed. And she's a wonderful neighbor, and they're very respectful, and they're very fantastic. And there's a lot of that in the community. And you know what? As a community, we embrace that. We embrace the diversity and we embrace individuals. But if you're here and you didn't go through the process, then how does that help you assimilate into the society or actually become part of the community when the first thing you do is step across the border and actually break that law? So that's a great point. Eddie, appreciate it. Got to take a break. 23 minutes past the hour. We have a heck of a lot to get to. The Farm Bill was voted on in the House, it looks like, as well. We have the House vote, or the voting numbers on that one, and it did include the reform when it comes to work requirements in order for the SNAP program. Will it go through the Senate? That's another discussion. We'll talk about that when we come back, along with a heck of a lot more coming up on the show today. This is The Voice of Reason. Happy Friday to you.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Minutes past the hour. Bottom of the hour news coming up. We appreciate the phone calls. Lots more coming up on a free-for-all, which means you get to drive the discussion today. Story, I don't know if this is true or not. I just saw the headline scrolling through social media over the break. But according to USA Today, porn star Stormy Daniels going to be making a visit to the border to help with immigrant children separated from their families. Let me tell you something. If there's anything that will drive the families and the parents back to go get their children, even if they threw them across the border for a better life, that will be knowing that their young child is meeting a porn star. Bottom of the hour news coming up.
Keeping reason in the world of politics.
But if you're really angry, why in the first place are you not frustrated and angry to the fact that you have to spend $250 to $600 of your own cash to be able to provide resources in the classroom?
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, welcome into The Voice of Reason. Great to have you along today on a Friday morning, waking you up the right way. You can interpret that one however you'd like to do so. Better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink, getting you started for a whole nother day. But guess what? It's the weekend, which means you see the light at the end of the tunnel. You get to enjoy, hopefully, maybe just a little bit. And it's open lines here, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Before we go any further, by the way, I do want to thank the Sedgwick County Republican Party allowing me to come in and MC a little forum last night. If you were not able to make it, then what the heck, man? But it was a lot of fun. What it was candidates for congressional seats in the area that are candidates that are not current elected officials, but new individuals looking to run for different districts in the South Central Kansas region. And we appreciate everybody that swung by. District number 83, David Robbins, that showed up. District 85, Michael Capps. District number 86, Jim Price. Jeff Kennedy for District number 87. Renee Erickson's the other Republican running in that primary. Was not able to make that one, but we'll look forward to chatting with her here soon as well. District 93, J.C. Moore was not able to attend. The primary opponent for John Whitmer, state representative. District number 97, Nick Hoheisel. He was there. Michael Walker was not able to attend that one. And District number 98, Ron Howard. He was able to make that one as well. So we appreciate all the candidates coming in. These are ways that we can start learning about the local candidates when it comes to an election. Now, whether it's challenging an incumbent, whether it's a primary Republican race, or whether it's just a Republican running, getting ready for the Democrat general election. So whatever the case is, it's really important for us to understand those candidates, understand their platforms, understand what they stand for, and we appreciate everybody that actually showed up. We will... it's coming up soon, and I've been holding off just because I want to do it right before the election so it's fresh in our minds and we know exactly what they stand for and exactly what they believe in. We're going to start getting many of the candidates on the show and start running them through the mill like we always love to do before election time. Election time, to me, is one of the most exciting times that we could possibly have, and this is the way to do it. So we will be getting candidates on not only for the congressional districts, or for the representative seats here in the area, but we will have on some judge candidates. We will have on, of course, Secretary of State. We've had on many of the gubernatorial candidates, which we'll get back on here again as well. So, and then even the congressional candidates as well, from the big first district, from the second district. As you know, we got Steve Watkins coming in here in about 20 minutes in studio. Looking forward to that one. So it's going to be really exciting to start talking to many of these candidates on what we could advocate for. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but a lot of the candidates that run for any kind of race, the ones that are more open to coming on, have the set of values that they know, that they appreciate, that they enforce, and that they want to actually take care of, that they love. And that's why we represent them. Because remember, we live in a republic, not a democracy. And it's not a candidate that comes in and says, yeah, you know what, I don't know, just tell me how to vote and I'll vote that way, depending on who I hear from the loudest. That doesn't work that way. We live in a republic to where you say, this is what I believe in, this is what my values are, this is the way I want to support it, and that's what I want to do. And then if you like that, then you support them, or you don't support them. So we'll do more of these forums. I know that in July, the Sedgwick County Republican Party, they'll have another rally with a lot of the candidates from the area, including Secretary of State candidates, including gubernatorial candidates, and they're having a big rally. We'll be involved in that one again as well. So stay tuned. More information to come on that one. But I do appreciate them allowing me to come and help out with that with any way that I can. And thanks again to all of the candidates that showed up yesterday. It was a really, really cool, great event. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Let's go ahead and take a phone call here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name? Hey, good morning, sir.
You know, for some reason, there seems to be a misunderstanding of what the actual law is, because, you know, in order for something to be a law, first it has to be a bill. And then second, as far as I understand the Kansas Constitution, only the Kansas legislature will make law.
Well, you're right. That is the normal way for something to become law, is that Congress would actually write a bill and they would debate it and they would haggle and they would tweak it and they would vote on it and they would argue. And once they voted on it, then the executive branch, whether we're talking about statewide level with the governor or whether the national level with the president, then they would sign it and then it would become a law. You're right. Nowadays, we very rarely do that because it's very difficult to actually get laws done and actually get Congress to do something. So we've turned into let's force to get maybe one or two laws done on the books, and then the rest of it's kind of executive orders and let things kind of slide and be on autopilot. And that's kind of the way
but
that
what I'm
things have been
saying
turned.
is that even on I'm talking about on the state level.
Okay.
That the Kansas legislator is the one that's supposed to create the laws.
Yes.
Nobody else has that power.
Correct.
However, sometimes cities try to mislead people and try to say that their ordinances is the same as the law, and it's not.
Well, we have different levels of umbrellas.
It's more like city policy than it is anything else.
Sure. Well, yeah,
It's not law.
Well, we have different layers of umbrellas, and here's how it works. I mean, the federal government has kind of an over-blanketing, and they say that they have the supremacy clause. That's not supposed to be the case, but that's kind of the way that it operates in today's time. It's supposed to be the states do the majority of the work, and then they sometimes allow the federal government to do some things. That's not the way we're set up anymore, but we have now... in realistic terms, we have the federal government's oversight blanket that just covers everything. Then you have state law that says, you know what, as a state, we're going to decide to do this. And then the county has their laws, and then the cities have their laws. And there's always an ongoing debate between an ordinance.
But cities and counties can't make law because according to the Kansas Constitution, only the state legislator can make law.
Oh, well, they can make city ordinances that they can.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Ordinances are not laws.
I mean, it is within the city limits.
No, it's not.
For example,
it's not a law.
Hold on. For example, the perfect example that I can think about this right off the bat would be the marijuana debate that happened in Colorado. The very first time that it started, when they started this, whatever it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they started going down this road of marijuana, the city of Denver was the one that legalized marijuana recreationally before the state even legalized it. And it was very tricky for them to decide what they were going to do with this because people within city limits were smoking it, were openly transporting it, were using it. And it was one of those things to where the law enforcement had no idea what to do because if it was a city cop that ended up pulling you over with marijuana, then you were just fine. If it was a state patrol officer that pulled you over, then you would have gotten in trouble. And there was a lot of confliction between if the city is allowed to pass an ordinance allowing you to smoke marijuana when the state itself at that time it still made it illegal, but the city was allowed to do so. So cities are allowed to have ordinances of their own aside from what the state does as well.
I know, but if you're breaking state law, then they can still come after you.
Well, true. Yeah, if you pass an ordinance that is against the state, then the state can try and come after you. It depends on how the severity of it and how big of an issue it is, and if they want to make an example out of it, or if, like in Colorado, if the state just kind of looks the other way and says, you know what, you're doing your own thing, and that's always kind of the legal battle that we see between many cities or even counties and state law is going back and forth and going to the courts on who has that right to do so and who doesn't. My mind, in my thought process, would be let's keep it as local as possible. So if a city or a county decides to do something, then the state should respect that and just kind of let them do their thing, because I like power being more localized since it has more since we have more accountability over it, as opposed to a state telling you, yeah, you know what, you're not allowed to really do that. But when it comes to the fluidity of society, then I mean we do have to have obviously some laws that keep the civility and keep things flowing nicely somewhat at the statewide level.
Yeah, but the problem with local ordinances is sometimes it's just based on somebody's opinion. Because somebody can say, well, I think you should only be able to do it, let's say, throw a firecracker up in the air 6 feet. Well, some people can throw it up 8 feet. So then it becomes an opinionated thing, not based on any law
sure.
of any sort. And then they can just decide, hey, we're just going to make this against the law or make this against an ordinance.
Sure.
And actually, ordinances are really supposed to be for people who work for the city,
Sure. Well, as far as I know,
in general.
As far as I know, though, there's not a statewide law that guarantees everybody to be able to fire a firework above 6 feet. Is there? Yeah,
but this is not a Napoleonic type government. See, if something says it's for the law, then that means that's the only thing you can do in that type of system. But in this system, you have to have something specific that says it's not
right
legal.
And that's right, and that's what the city did. And look, I'm with you because I totally agree, and I think that we should be able to fire off fireworks as high and as much as we want to. I think that we have that right. I'm with you on this one, but you're right. There is no law specifically saying
it just got to be challenged in these district courts. Because municipal course, they all work for the city, so they're just going to do what they want to do. You just got to go over their heads, and go to a district court and demand, hey, this has no basis on state law of any sort, so why are they doing this?
Well, again, though, I don't think I think if we took it to court, then we wouldn't get a very positive result, just because of the fact, as you mentioned, that there's no specific law saying that we have the right to do so. It's just kind of an open, unspoken thing that you kind of get to do that unless someone says no, and the city has said no. The best way that we have to actually appeal this and reverse it is to get the city itself to actually reverse that issue, and that's really the best way that we can do it. That's really the only way we can do it right now. I don't think it would hold up in court, something like that, because the city had set an ordinance for the city limits on something like that. It goes back into, if you want to talk into it relation to the Second Amendment. How about Deerfield, Illinois? Illinois allows the purchase of assault rifles, quote unquote, the larger, higher capacity, faster firing, rapid fire, whatever firearms. And the city of Deerfield, Illinois said, no, we're not going to allow them within our city. And is that a blatant violation of the Second Amendment? Absolutely, which is why we're fighting it in court with the Second Amendment Foundation and some of those groups, but they have chosen to do something like that. That's why states themselves get to actually choose whether they want concealed carry, constitutional carry on campus, teachers to be able to carry firearms, whatever the sub-discussion is within that Second Amendment argument when we have a Second Amendment. And it's very simple, but the city ordinance gets to choose a lot of that stuff, and unless there's a specific law saying that it violates that, then they get to do that. And right now in the state, we don't have a violated law that says that everyone has the right to be able to shoot a firework 100 feet up in the air, so the city gets the right to do so. And I don't like it. I'm with you. I don't agree with it, but they have the right to do that. What we need to do is just be able to reverse their opinion and have them reverse that type of bill and that type of law, so that way we have the right to be able to boom the fireworks as everybody else does in the state. Interesting conversation. I really like the continuation and the struggle between the states and the city and the city and the state and the state and the county and the state and the federal government, and the division between the size of government, the localized government, and who has the responsibility above one another. Got to take a break. 48 minutes past the hour. Your thoughts and calls when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
7 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. It's great to have you along today on a Friday, wrapping up hour number one already. Second candidate for 2nd Congressional District, Mr. Steve Watkins, going to be joining us here in studio in just a bit. Looking forward to that. This portion of The Voice of Reason, as you know, though, on a Friday, not only a Friday or a free-for-all Friday, but a fried chicken Friday, brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South of Main Street in downtown Inman, just north of Hutch, as they're getting ready for the awesome shenanigans that happen every single Friday out there, as the wheelbarrows are being lined up outside, so that way you can be wheeled right out after you eat your delicious food. Katie's back on the line with us. Katie, how are you today?
Good morning, Andy. Happy Fried Chicken Friday.
Hey, happy Fried Chicken Friday. It is a day and a half. I tell you what, you guys are all excited today.
We've been hard at it since about 4:30, so we're rocking and rolling.
I love it. You guys do this every single week, but we got to remind everybody, because this already starts to get people all, rumbly and they're tumbly and excited and ready to go for the week and for the weekend. But you guys have your two buffets tonight. Of course, you got your breakfast rolling right now, but you have two buffets, one from 11 to 1 for lunchtime, the big one from 5 to 8 o'clock tonight, and you can gorge yourself as you wish. And what do you have lined up for us today?
So today, besides the fried chicken and the homemade mashed potatoes and the gravies and all the vegetables, we're going to have bierox. So I'm currently working on that. My dough is there. I get to play in dough this morning again. So
I like it.
That's really exciting. And then we're going to have something that's called potluck chicken casserole. So that's a real vague and non-descriptive name. But it's basically chicken and onions and garlic, and it's cooked together, and then it's covered in a kind of like a homemade cheese sauce. Okay. And then it's topped with a crumbly breadcrumb topping, and then we bake it. And so it's basically just onions and garlic and cheese and chicken.
I like that.
And it's really, really good.
That sounds pretty yummy.
Yeah,
I like it.
And we like that it's called potluck casserole because that's kind of our theme on Fridays. Is kind of like a big church potluck. So you come in and you just never know exactly what you're going to get, but you know you're going to leave like super full. So.
That's right. You get to enjoy as much of that as you can. And I got to say, beer rocks. I've had a beer rock or two before. I've never had them a whole lot because I'm not a big fan of onions. I don't eat a whole lot of onions, but beer rocks are really delicious. I really do enjoy those, even with the onion in there.
Yeah, and they're really popular around here because it's kind of a traditional Mennonite thing to eat, and that's the kind of culture that we're in over here. So,
sure.
So we make beer rocks quite often.
I love it. So that's good stuff. And then, of course, you got your roast beef that you have in the evening as well.
Right.
And
yes,
of
always.
course, we can't just, forget the fried chicken and all the fried chicken wonders that come with that.
Yeah, and if you come from 5 to 8, the buffet will come with pie, choice of pie. And let me tell you, we've got a lot of different pies out there today. So no guarantees that they're all going to be there tonight because the lunch crowd might eat them up. I don't know. But we've got coconut cream, chocolate almond, sour cream raisin, strawberry lemonade. That one's a frozen pie, so you won't see that in the pie case. You have to ask for it if you want it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's frozen. And then pineapple cream cheese, banana cream, cherry, custard, banana split, and lemon meringue. So those are the ones out there now, and then this afternoon after the lunch crowd has gone through, then we might have to make a couple more. So
you guys always have something different and unique all the time, and I love it. That strawberry lemonade pie. I've never heard of such a thing, but it sounds fantastic.
It's really, really good. Yeah, it's kind of like a sherbet in a pie crust.
I like it. I dig it. It's the Inman Harvest Cafe. Wheelbarrow sold separately to get you out there after you end up filling yourself to the brim. Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street in downtown Inman. Give them a call, 620-585-6925, or just head up there for both buffets, again, from 11 to 1, and the big one from 5 to 8 o'clock tonight with that slice of pie. Katie, you guys enjoy. Have fun at breakfast time. We'll check in with you here in a couple hours.
All right, thanks. We'll talk to you then.
Always a good time. Appreciated very much. Brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street in downtown Inman. We got about a minute left before the top of the hour, but I do want to try and sneak in another phone call here before we wrap up line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Richard.
Richard, what's going on, my friend?
All these people complaining about fireworks, let me tell you, I go to as many district advisory board meetings that I can. I try to hit the neighborhood advisory boards. I don't see anybody there. I see mainly older people, and I'm old, but I see older people than me, and they don't like the noise, so they complained to the fire marshal when she was trying to get everything, or fire chief, when she was trying to develop these laws. People, if you're young enough, get involved down low, because all of this starts in committees and works up. And by the time it gets to the committee, they're taking what the district advisory boards are telling them. Not always, but basically.
That's a really great point.
And when there's a meeting, it needs to be packed out. And I show up at these meetings, and there's 5 people there.
I agree. Richard, that's a really great point. I mean, if we're going to start changing these things, we have to be active. We can't just sit back and say we want it, but then not actually do anything about it. Stay tuned. Hour number 2 coming up.
Hi, this is Phil Martinez from Phil's Coins. The bragging we were hearing from people about all the money they were making off Bitcoin has died down. At Phil's Coins, we don't deal in half-truths or cyber currency. We buy, sell, and trade precious metals that have been around since the time of Christ. If you want to trust your hard-earned dollars to cyber this or cyber that, that's your business. If you'd like to talk real tangible gold and silver, that's our business. Phil's Coins, 9344 West Central.
It's time for Reason.
And tell me once where we've cut anything in the state budget since 2012. Hasn't happened. We've increased in educational spending, K through 12 and higher education. We've increased spending on this program, on that program. We've cut zero, zilch, nothing, nada. So lower state funding for higher education, part of that is completely false. Then you see the declining enrollment at K-State. Why do you think that there's a lower enrollment? It's too expensive.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 2 of the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on KGPT TV, channel 2610 as well. We're on Facebook Live at facebook.com/1480 KQAM. We're on the TuneIn app. We're on KQAMradio.com with the online streaming. Let me just say that if you can't find us, then it's your own damn fault. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. It is a Friday. Meaning that today you run the show. Whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you, I am your political therapist. Let's work through it together. What do you say? Let's make it happen. Come on. Let's do it. All right. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, you're more than welcome to do so. You can shoot me a message on Twitter at Who's Your Reason, although I don't like Twitter just because that is the perfect platform for Democrats to be able to do their nice little bumper sticker bullet point, and then they're done. And then it's just trolling from there on out. But you can do that. You can also email me, Andy at KQAMradio.com. Got a guest in studio. Really excited to have him back in as making the trip down to the Wichita area. We've talked about this race for a while, and it's a heck of a race. I got to say, with so many candidates on the Republican side, a few candidates on the Democratic side, and it is going to be a really fun one to watch. Just north of us in the 2nd Congressional District, it's Mr. Steve Watkins in studio. Steve, what's happening, my friend?
Oh, Andy, thank you so much for having me back. So great to be here.
It's great to be with you again. It's good to see you back down here in Wichita. How's the campaign going?
Oh, man, we just celebrated our 1-year birthday, and
I love it.
It couldn't be going better. Now, as your listeners may remember, I'm not the politician. I am the outsider. I'm the only person in this race who has never held elected office before. I'm not a politician, not even a lawyer. No offense to my lawyer friends and my lawyer sister out there, but I'm an engineer. I'm a builder. I'm a war veteran, an airborne ranger, a dog musher, Iditarod dog sled racer, a mountaineer, a family man, a concerned citizen, and a Christian.
See, you're the adventurer. Yeah, that's how I've kind of labeled it. Is you're the adventurer doing the dog sledding and climbing Mount. Where did you go?
Everest.
You went to Mount Everest. You did that in the same year.
That's right. I was the first person in history to attempt both the Iditarod 1,000-mile dog sled race in Alaska and Mount Everest in the same year. The Iditarod went well, Everest not so well.
Right. Yeah. You are the adventurer, and that's a lot of fun.
And campaigning is an adventure. I mean, we are so excited about the progress we've made this past year. We just received a national endorsement from With Honor, a super PAC designed to help veterans get elected. We need more veterans. I think people want veterans. People want outsiders. People realize that veterans, especially my generation, we've helped fight in 1 or 2 wars, and we're battle seasoned. We come at leadership in a concerted problem-solving sort of a way. We knock on over 1,000 doors a day.
Wow.
In our campaign. We just surpassed 20,000 doors across the district. Man, I've talked with gubernatorial candidates who are in envy of those numbers, and they're running, of course, a statewide race. So I'm real proud of that. I'm going to send a shout out to a Wichita campaign employee of mine named Dylan Jones because he is running that. He is our field director. He's the one who's out there leading my troops every day, rain or shine, knocking on doors. And from that, we're listening. We're not preaching. We're listening to what people want, and what they want more than anything else is to drain the swamp. They want they still believe in that outsider message that if you the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different outcome. And
exactly,
voters don't want that. They want new ideas, fresh blood. We're very pleased with the leadership and politics that we've seen from Donald Trump, and he needs help. So, and that's what we're building our campaign and our platform on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, talk about some of those issues. I mean, I'm glad the campaign's going really well. It's really fan. I mean, you got to have a pretty large team. I mean, if you're knocking on 1,000 doors a day, I mean, that's some good movement there. For example, yesterday the House voted for the immigration bill getting shot down. I do give credit to all 4 of our congressional candidates in the state of Kansas, congressional members in the state of Kansas, as all 4 of them did vote for the conservative bill last night. Unfortunately, it did get shot down. 40 Republicans not voting it down. But this is the kind of stuff that whoever ends up filling this seat is going to have to go up and deal with. And it's frustrating. How would you approach something like this?
Well, I love the Goodlatte bill. I would have voted for it like the rest of the Kansas delegation. It did fail to pass. Now, I believe a compromise bill is up probably next week, perhaps even today. I'm a build the wall guy, right? And to take, we got to take very seriously who's coming into our country and how. So that's not mean-spirited. That's just common sense. You know that, and your listeners know that too. So we got to continue to fight the good fight. I'm glad in our Kansas delegation for being a part of that, and I'm confident that we're going to pass a good, practical bill soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's hope so, at least. And then on the other hand, I mean, we did vote for the Farm Bill as well, and agriculture being one of the huge issues in the state of Kansas. And I know that we've been really up in arms about what's going to happen with the Farm Bill. It voted and it got passed by 2 votes yesterday in the House.
Yeah, very narrow vote.
With that very narrow vote. Now, the Freedom Caucus was able to actually include their stipulation on there, which was some of the work requirements for the SNAP program. Whether that goes into the Senate or not, time will tell, and that's going to be a more tough fight. But that's another hot issue that I'm sure you guys have been focusing on as well.
It is, and it's a big focus on this in the 2nd District. The House did pass their version of Farm Bill on Wednesday by that narrow vote. The Senate will vote on theirs probably next week. Now, if both bills are different, so they'll go to conference, and if the Senate version also passes, then in post-conference, a final text will be voted on and sent to the president. So I'm encouraged to see that the House passed the Farm Bill. And this is a big win for our farmers. As you know, I've spent a lot of time with ag professionals across the 2nd District and across Kansas. Over and over again, we hear about the importance of the Farm Bill. And in a state like Kansas, and that legislation is vital. And it honestly, it upsets me that it took Washington this long to get her done. But one thing we can see very clearly is that the Democratic Party, if couldn't be further disconnected from what the people here in Kansas want. Okay, let's take a look at the actions by the Democrats and it's very, very clear that if they control the House, and they'll be prepared to shut down a farm bill like that for a second time and force uncertainty on the workers, working farmers, and the producers across the country. All because of the SNAP requirement. That's what a lot of them were against. So, has America really reached a point where one of our political parties doesn't believe it acceptable to ask people to help themselves as we help them as well? So, where this farm bill, it's so important. And what we're hearing from professionals in the ag community is the importance of crop insurance. It's the importance of broadband. And I've walked farms, and it's a vital part of our economy here in Kansas, and it ought not to be regulated by bureaucrats in Washington, but rather by people who understand farming and agriculture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's really frustrating about the whole thing, and as you mentioned, I mean, you on the farm talking to people. I mean, we've talked to them. We have our Mid-America Ag Network. We talk to farmers all the time. They want to know, as you mentioned, crop insurance. They want to talk about rural broadband. They want to talk about what this is going to do for the agricultural community. And what are we doing in Washington, D.C.? We're sitting here debating about the 80% of the funding that goes into this bill when it comes to a social program like SNAP that has zero to do with the farmers. It's kind of frustrating.
You're absolutely right. And here's a little factoid. The price of the farm bill was $860 billion. SNAP costs just over 75% of that. And so, listen, this is how far left the Democrats have moved. They would rather leave those who feed us high and dry, while those who are receiving help from the government aren't asked to even take part in their own solution. Now, I was raised on good heartland values of hard work. We work hard, you play hard, you treat people right, and the better your solution, the better your lot in life becomes. Now, Democrats today just don't get that. Their priorities are way out of line, and they certainly don't want what's best for Kansans.
Mm-hmm. No, they have no consideration on that. Now, I do give credit to some of the leadership in our right now, like Pat Robertson, Jerry Moran, who do try and work on the farm bill the best that they can. Mm-hmm. But again, we have a lot of work to do on that one. Let's go back to immigration for just a second. Not only the bill that was voted on yesterday, but this entire, we've been dragged through the mud this week when it talks about the whole, separating the children from their families and what we do when it comes to border enforcement and and all of these issues that are going on right now that everybody's up in arms about, and it seems to be now the emotional argument as opposed to the realistic and commonsensical arguments. Yeah. What's your take on this whole fiasco, and how do we go about fixing some of this?
Well, you're absolutely right. The president signed an executive order to allow children to stay with parents caught crossing the border illegally, and hoping to stem a national outcry about children being separated from their parents and detained in shelters. Now, listen, this is all because of a 1997 order and related decisions that children cannot be detained for longer than 20 days with their parents, with adults. And so, our president inherited a lot of this, and the liberals are they're making an emotional appeal and not really looking for good problem solving solutions.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Let's go ahead and take a break. 18 minutes past the hour. One more segment. Steve Watkins, candidate for the 2nd Congressional District. Lots more to get to. If you have a question, you're more than welcome to call in at 316-721-8255 as we get ready for election season, baby. That's what we're talking about. When we come back, I do want to touch on you guys have been on the streets. You've been talking to a lot of people. We'll see your thoughts on if people are anticipating the blue wave actually coming in. So that should be fun. We'll talk about that and more when we come back right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. 23 minutes past the hour. Just got a few minutes left with Steve Watkins, candidate for the 2nd Congressional District, as Lynn Jenkins stepping down after this term is all said and done. SteveForKansas.com. SteveForKansas.com is the website if you want to check that out. And when you're talking to people on the streets and you're knocking on the doors, as you mentioned, you're hitting a lot of doors out there. What's been kind of the big focus and priority that you've heard from constituents saying this is the issue that's really frustrating me? Is it the immigration? Is it taxes? Is it the guns? What have you been hearing as the main issue?
Number one by far is drain the swamp.
Drain the swamp.
Yeah, they want to drain the swamp. They love the fact that I'm an outsider. They love the fact that I'm a veteran. But we don't try and sell me. We try and listen, and that's how you represent your constituency with integrity and with honesty, is to listen. And they want that swamp drained. They're also concerned about national security. We're hearing a lot of people being concerned with North Korea. And on that, we're really proud of the historic summit, and we've broken a 70-year ice here, and talking about denuclearizing North Korea. So people are tracking that.
How is
story.
that a bad thing? Yeah, how is that a bad thing in any way, shape, or form?
Oh, no, it's great. Listen, this is a slave state with 25 million prisoners and a gulag system with hundreds of thousands of people, and the Kim family has a history of just lying to the West. And so we're proud of our president, and we hope that this is a turning point, this summit. And Kim Jong-un has fired 3 of his father's hardliners, and Trump is a strong negotiator. And so, Trump is a hardline patriot with tough international philosophy. People know that. Even Kansas second voters we talk about every day. And so we're but diplomacy is a tactic, not an outcome. So only history will tell whether or not this is a victory. And so we're hearing a lot on national security. We're hearing a lot on drain the swamp.
Sure. Well, good. And going with the North Korea thing, it's as you mentioned, whether something comes out of it or not, at least we're attempting. And the fact that I trust Mike Pompeo and President Trump to be able to put them on a short lease and not just say, oh, you know what, it's done, and let's just let them do their thing, and then them try and catch us off guard. That's not going to happen.
I'm so glad that you brought up Pompeo. I'm a huge fan. He and I got a lot in common. We're both Kansas boys. He's a West Pointer just like me. He went to Harvard just like me. And I'm just so honored and proud of his career. I was just at a fundraiser at the Flint Hills National Golf Course yesterday, and a lot of those guys were part of his fundraising apparatus, and a lot of his friends. He's a great American. I'm just so proud that he's up there succeeding.
Absolutely. 316-721-8255. We got a few minutes left here, but we do have a phone call on the line. Let's try and squeeze in here if we'd like to do so. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Scott.
Scott, what's going on, sir?
Well, I want to ask him, wouldn't he agree that if state legislators pass something that's affecting the people, it also affects them? Therefore, how could a city pass something that's not effective to them but effective to the people?
Well, I appreciate the call, Scott. We talked about this a little bit in the first hour. I don't know if you heard or not, but just the separation of federal power versus state and state versus city, and the influence that state legislators have on the federal government. Your thoughts on any of that?
Well, here's the deal, and what we found is, every echelon of governance, the municipal, state, county, federal, they work in chorus for the benefit of the constituency. And so I think they need to talk. We have our Kansas delegation has great working relationships with the state and municipal leaders. I've forged that leadership. I talk with state senators and state congressmen all the time, county commissioners, sheriffs all the time. And we all want the same thing, and that's what's best for the people. And we got to keep that in mind. And we also got to listen to the people at all echelons, federal, state, local, to make sure that their voice is being heard. So any decisions ought to be made with that as its foundation and its philosophy.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I mean, the best way sometimes, depending on the issue, obviously, but a lot of it is, at the federal level, just being able to deregulate it enough to say, you know what, we're out of the way, state, make your decisions and do what you will, because that's really how we should be governing in many cases, right?
Absolutely. And I'm a strong believer in keeping government in check, deregulating government overreach. And on that, I mean, I'm a big free market economy guy, patriotism, peace through military strength, the First Amendment, the gift of life. All these things underpin an idea that was born in 1776 to a imperfect crew of Western revolutionaries. And I'm proud that the latest incarnation of their vision is the Republican movement. I'm carrying that forward, and that's a foundation of my decisions, and that ought to be what our civil servants think about on all echelons of governance.
Sure. No, absolutely. We got about a minute left here. Steve Watkins, 2nd Congressional District, but your plan for the next few weeks when it comes to the campaign trail and leading up to the primaries in a few months.
We are hitting the main streets. We're knocking on doors. This is a grassroots effort. All politics is local, and we're taking that into account. I'm very proud also that we're on TV. Our first day on TV was last Monday. It has made an incredible difference in name recognition. Our signs are up in Topeka and all over the district. And now we went from about 25% of the people who we knock on or call are aware of us up to north of 75-80%. So and on all that in about a week. So the power of TV and radio, we're going to be on radio next Monday. So I'm very, very proud of the progress the campaign has made. We started off as a walk, then a crawl, then a walk, and we are running. So thank you to my crew, thank you to my supporters, my family, and my wonderful wife, who I married about 1 month ago.
I was going to say, actually, you came in just about the weekend after you guys got married or something. It was right afterwards.
So. Well, to my fiance, to my wife, Fong, my ex-fiance, Fong, thinking of you, love you, and if you're ever thinking about running for office, don't get married during election season.
Word to the wise right there on that one. Steve Watkins, SteveForKansas.com is the website if you want to check him out. Steve, we always appreciate when you come down here and swing by the studios, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Andy.
Always love it. Got to take a bottom of the hour break. Open lines to you when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
Defending the rights of every Kansan.
I'm not being aggressive, I'm being dominant.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
What up? Welcome into The Voice of Reason. Happy Friday morning to you. It's great to have you along today. Waking you up better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink, because that's the way we roll, and that's the way we enjoy it. Waking you up the right way. You can interpret that one however you'd like to. Thanks again to Steve Watkins coming in studio. I know coming from the 2nd Congressional District up north, coming down to Wichita, a little bit out of his district, but it's important for you and I to understand who is running for different seats in different districts all around the entire state, and we appreciate that very much. We've talked to Steve Watkins, we've talked to Steve Fitzgerald, we have not talked to some of the other candidates yet, as there are like 6 or 7 of them, but we will get them all on hopefully before the primary, and talk to each and every one of them. Again, if you have not heard the news, the House yesterday ended up rejecting the immigration bill 193 to 231. This was the conservative bill that kind of got it. Here's the thing. I think it was almost some type of attack on it to where they didn't allow the debate for very long. They didn't allow it to actually be discussed for very long, and they attacked it saying that we were just going to be able to start rounding people up in the country and start shipping them out if they are illegal, and it got the bad rep. The Goodlatte bill was the one that ended up voting down yesterday. It was a co-sponsored bill by Congressman Ron Estes, and we do thank and appreciate every single congressional member of the state of Kansas, all 4 congressional members, with Ron Estes, with Roger Marshall, with Lynn Jenkins, with Kevin Yoder. All 4 of them did vote for the bill, so we do give them a huge praise for that. Even though it didn't work and go through, at least we represented the best way that we could here in the state of Kansas. So now they're looking at a compromise bill. They're going to be voting on that sometime today. I don't know what the compromise bill details look like. I don't know what the bill's going to entail. I don't know what all we're compromising, but we do have to work through that. So that happened along with yesterday, the farm bill that the Freedom Caucus was able to include the work requirements in there when it came to the SNAP program. That one passing by 2 votes. 2 votes. 213 to 211 was the final vote on that one. That one, I mean, it sounds great. That's nice. We passed it. Kudos. Hoorah. We made it happen. The bad part about it is it's going to go over to the Senate now, and if it was that close of a margin in the Senate or in the House, do you really think it's going to go through in the Senate? That's going to be the time to tell. So, but at least they did vote on it. We did at least get a little bit in there, and the Freedom Caucus ended up being able to include those stipulations into the Farm Bill. So one step down. Can we go to the next step? Phone lines are jammed. Let's go to them, shall we? Get your thoughts and calls today on anything. It is a free-for-all Friday, 316-721-8255. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. This is Deacon.
Deacon, what's happening, sir?
Oh, it's a beautiful day, brother.
Hey, living the dream. That's the way we roll.
Hey, I got to share one thing with you, and then I want to talk about some real quick. I found out this morning at 3 o'clock that my fuel gauge does not work like I thought it did.
Fantastic.
Right. So first thing this morning, I ran out of gas on the way to work.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a way to start a Friday.
Right. And, and I just sitting there going, you know what? Thank God I'm just out of gas and I didn't blow a motor or something. So, God is good.
See, amen to that one. Now, see, if it was a progressive that would have done that in the morning, then they probably would have blamed the fact that oil companies hate you and that they probably sucked your the fuel right out of your can, and it was probably Donald Trump's fault because he's a racist.
Right. And, I'm going to tell you what, man, the guy I used to be would have been out on the side of the road yelling and cussing and screaming at my car because it was my car's fault, But,
sure.
God is good. Number 2, that guy that's called in twice about cities making laws, unless it is a law that is, a federal law or a state law, municipalities have the right to regulate what goes on inside the city limits.
Right.
That's why you live in a city.
Right.
If you want to do what you want to do, move out of the city. Go live in the country.
Exactly, and that's why I used the example in the last hour when we talked about it, when it came to marijuana policy, was that the city of Denver, before the state legalized recreational marijuana, the city allowed it, and because there was no specific law that was violated at the statewide level saying, no, you cannot do that, then the city ordinance had the prerogative in order to do so, and that's why cities do have powers to make ordinances and laws at the citywide or the countywide level, as long as it's not violating a very specific law that says you shall not or you may do this at the statewide or federal levels.
I mean, every city you drive into has a speed limit that's set by the city. That is a city ordinance.
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you, I don't disagree with you very often, but I did today.
Okay.
I get up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want fireworks going until 2 a.m. I need sleep, brother.
Well, here's the thing. Now, I didn't say I agree that we need to have some sort of stipulation on it. What if we just did fireworks from 10 to midnight? And we did it as a limited confined room and say, you know what, you can boom off any type of fireworks you want, whether it's the 6-foot little sparklers or whether it's the really big boom ones that have 10 different colors to them. But we can find it to a 2-hour window and have at it. But then you need to respect that, so that way at midnight, then we know that the curfew's in place. And then you stop doing it.
Oh, absolutely. The city I live in, you have 5 days where you can fire off fireworks and. Mm-hmm. All of those are until 10 o'clock at night, except for Independence Day, which you can go till midnight.
Sure.
And you can get a variance from the city to close off your street, and you can set them off in the street in front of your house. Your neighbors get together, have a cookout, set off fireworks. It's fantastic.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
You know, you can't go till 2 o'clock in the morning because people need to sleep.
I'm with you. No, I'm with you on there, and I completely agree because, hey, I don't wake up at 2:30, but I wake up at 4, and I don't like being up until 2 o'clock a.m. either. Although to me, it's I know with other individuals that have experienced that kind of stuff, it's a little bit different story. But to me, it's kind of relaxing because it reminds me of thunderstorms, and thunderstorms make me go out just like that. So that doesn't bother me. I know people who have experienced war and that sort of thing. It's a totally different story. But yeah, let's. I like the idea of the compromises we were talking about with setting it up in certain areas of the city where it's a community place. You can go and shoot it off all you want to, whether it's a street or a park. I like confining it to certain hours to where you can have your fun, but you're still respectful. I like the stipulations on there. I just don't like the ordinance saying no fireworks above 6 feet and you're not allowed to do that because, well, we just don't want you to do that. I just don't like that law.
Yeah, I agree 100%. When I lived in North Carolina, you couldn't have anything that went off the ground and blew up. You could have sparklers, but we went down to South Carolina and bought illegal fireworks and set them off at the beach.
Right. That's what you do.
You do what you do, but you don't do it right at somebody's house.
Sure. No, you're right.
Have a great day, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it, Deacon, very much, my friend. It's going to be really interesting to see how many people actually abide by the ordinance saying that you're not allowed to fire off the big ones. As you know, and as you see every 4th of July, which is coming up in just 2 weeks from now, a week and a half now, really, whatever, that people still boom them off all night long, even when they're not supposed to. And now that they're going to be enforcing it a little bit more tougher, then maybe that will deter some people, but I highly doubt it. I mean, come on. Tell me when people who wanted to break the law knew that they were not supposed to be doing something. Tell me when a harsher law actually told them not to do so, when it stopped them. Like the smoking, like the marijuana thing, like the whatever. I mean, come on. I think that we should have that little I don't know. I know it's an ever-going debate, and we've talked about it at the city level for a while, but my take on it. I like the opportunity for us to have that. Let's limit it. Let's be respectful, but let's allow it to happen. Let's have some fun with it. 721-8255, line number 2. Let's go back to the phones here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, Andy. It's Ron.
Ron, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Great program today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I was watching Fox last night, Tucker Carlson, and he had Jorge Ramos on there. And anyway,
I'm sorry that he had to talk to him.
Oh yeah, he's hard to understand. He talks so fast anyway.
Sure.
And his accent is very deep. And anyway, he was saying that the front runner for the president of Mexico says that anybody has the right to come into America anytime they want to.
Sure.
And since the Mexican government has a law that allows people in the United States that are American citizens to also vote in Mexico in their elections, that he will protect every person of color up here that are Mexican citizens. So now we have Mexican citizens that are also citizens to the United States. Now, where is their priorities if they're an American citizen? Is it Mexicans' considerations priority to them, or is it priority to us because
realizing
they became our citizens?
Right. They're beginning to realize that the U.S. is going through some changes and that it may not be beneficial to them because they've been able to get away with a lot for a really long time, and we've been kind of the bloodline for a lot of what they've wanted to do when it comes to not only the trafficking, but when it comes to money, when it comes to finances, when it comes to trade, and the fact that we're trying to bring jobs back home from a lot of manufacturing plants down there, when we're starting to cut off the illegal immigration part when it comes to trafficking, whether it's drugs or humans or whatever, and trafficking back and forth across the border, when we're starting to cut off those lifelines, they're going to respond. And this is the way that some of them are going to respond by saying, wait a second, let's go the other way. We're going to start protecting Mexicans that are up here that are still not naturalized citizens of the U.S. They're going to try and somehow apparently do something with the votes when it comes to people that are going down there. They're going to do whatever they can because that's their panicked response of, oh my gosh, things are changing and we're not going to have the nice little cushy ride that the U.S. has been giving us for a long time. I guess we better start doing something drastic.
Yeah, speaking of drugs, he's also he wants to give the drug lords amnesty down in Mexico also.
Shocker.
So, I mean,
I wonder who's paying him and who's the special interest behind this individual running.
Yeah, because the big thing is like Tucker said, that they have a Patron peon system still down in Mexico, and the elite that is in Mexico, which this guy's a part of, the wealthy elite, they want to all this money that goes back to Mexico through Dillon's Western Union is like $30 billion every year.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a big stake in the money that comes back to Mexico every year, because that's part of their economy down there.
It's unfortunate. I mean, they have a lot of issues down there, and you would think that we could try and start cleaning it up, but it sounds like, as you know, the corruption, the drug lords, the whoever down there that have a lot of money, they have a heck of a lot of influence as well when it comes to the governmental system and the law enforcement down there, and it probably isn't going to get cleaned up for a while, don't you think?
Probably not. And this guy sounds like that he's I won't say a Trump hater, but he doesn't like Trump.
Oh, sure. And I'm sure that Donald Trump's going to be able to fuel that and be able to put his little pokes in. High or low, how many tweets do you think that we're going to get in the next couple of days from Trump regarding this candidate for the president down in Mexico from Donald Trump?
I hope a bunch.
I could see that happening relatively soon. I wonder what nickname he's going to call him after, of course, Rocket Man and all the other ones that he makes. I'm sure he's going to have a nickname for this guy pretty soon.
Yeah. Evidently, this guy's the front runner, is probably going to be the next president of Mexico. So,
well, you know what? We got to remember that, and the progressives are going to forget this, but we need to remember that we cannot let another nation dictate our policies here in the U.S. So if they want to start breaking ties with us, they're starting to cause some havoc, then we need to be strong enough to say, you know what? We're going to part ways, and we're going to start changing the relationship that we have pretty dramatically. So hopefully they're aware of that, because Donald Trump is not going to take a bully down in Mexico trying to tell us what we can and cannot do with people coming across our borders.
I like your program today, and you have a great weekend, Andy.
You as well, Ron. Appreciate it very much, my friend. 316-721-8255, 49 minutes past the hour. Let's take one more break. Wrapping up hour number 2, we have another guest coming up in the 8 o'clock hour that I think you'll enjoy. Dr. Jane Orient. She is pushing for the advocating the right to try, that if you're terminally ill, maybe you have cancer, maybe you have some issues, and you want to try some of the experimental drugs that the government has not yet approved, that you should have the right to try those in that state of desperation. A great conversation that we're going to have here in just a bit. We'll talk to her coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Your thoughts and calls as well. We have a lot to get you. By the way, I've teased this, but we have not talked about it yet. Are you aware? And this came out of the news yesterday, that Topeka Capital Journal, that one of the buildings that holds children from being separated from their families at the border, there is a building that's doing that called The Villages in Topeka. And they receive close to $3 to $4 million a year when it comes to operating expenses to hold children that have been separated from their families in Topeka. Why is this only coming out now? We'll talk about that when we come back as well. Your thoughts and calls, plus much more. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up hour number 2, about 4 minutes to the top of the hour, 316-721-8255. By the way, local activism, as we always try and focus on, trying to remind you of ways to get involved, ways to understand what's going on, and the candidates that are actually going to be representing you in your area for the South Central delegation. Yesterday, Sedgwick County Republican meeting. If you were not able to attend, then what the heck, man? I got the honor. Thanks again for the invite from them to allow me to MC their forum with new candidates running, not currently elected officials, but new candidates that are running for seats around the area. David Robbins, district number 83, my district, by the way, on that one. Michael Capps, district 85. Jim Price, district 86. Jeff Kennedy, District 87, which Renee Erickson also running in that one. That's going to be a primary showdown on that one. Renee was not able to make last night, but Jeff Kennedy was there for District number 87. J.C. Moore, District 93, not able to attend last night, but he was invited for that one. Nick Hoheisel, District 97, he was there along with Ron Howard, District 98. So appreciate everybody that came out last night. It was a lot of fun. It was really great to be able to meet them, talk about the different issues and policies happening and their thoughts on what's going on. Today, if you get an opportunity to continue on with that, there is the Wichita Pachyderm Club. They're going on in the middle of the day today. It's a noon, and that one's going to be kind of a discussion/debate for two of the districts, Kansas House District number 87, with the primary challengers of Renee Erickson, Jeff Kennedy, along with District number 93, with State Representative John Whitmer and J.C. Moore, the opponent on that one. So those two kind of going to have the squaring off and discussion today when it comes to that race at the Wichita Pachyderm Club. Make sure to don't miss it. If you get a chance to get out there and check it out, it's going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to that one. I will be out there this week. I haven't been out there in so long. It's been so hard to get out and go see it, but I will be out there today to go and view that one. And hopefully you get to do so as well. 316-721-8255. Got some calls on the line. I don't have time to take you right now. We got about 45 seconds to the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to have Dr. Jane Orient on the show with us as well. I do want to take as many phone calls as we can because there are a lot of we haven't even touched on half of what we needed to today regarding the Topeka building housing some of the children that are separated from their families. What are we going to do about them now that Donald Trump ended up signing the executive order yesterday or a couple of days ago? What are we going to do now? And why didn't we even know about this until just now? Again, another one of these emotional issues to where we don't even know what's going on until all of a sudden they think that it's a big issue, but it's been happening for a long time. Where were they getting $2.5 million to $4 million a year to be able to sustain this, and more kids showing up in Topeka from the border? Why? We'll talk about that today. We'll talk about the farm bill. We'll talk about the immigration bill. Also, we haven't even touched on the Democrat running for Attorney General with their nice little picture looking like Wonder Woman strangling a cop. How does that play out to the Democrats? They are, by the way, asking her to resign from that race. We'll talk about all that and more. Hour number 3, The Voice of Reason, coming up. Stay here.
Speak. It's time for Reason.
And tell me once where we've cut anything in the state budget since 2012. Hasn't happened. We've increased in educational spending, K through 12 and higher education. We've increased spending on this program, on that program. We've cut zero, zilch, nothing, nada. So lower state funding for higher education, part of that is completely false. Then you see the declining enrollment at K-State. Why do you think that there's a lower enrollment? It's too expensive.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 3. The Voice of Reason broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Simulcasting on Facebook Live at facebook.com/1480KQAM. Wherever you may be listening, watching, does not matter. Welcome aboard. It's great to have you along today on a Friday. You finally made it, my friends. Let's make it a free-for-all Friday. Come on. As usual, today's the day. Whatever's on your mind, bothering you, troubling you, it does not matter. I am your political therapist. I'm sitting back enjoying. Let's work through it together. Come on. All right. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's have a little fun. As you know, a lot of issues happening today. We've tried to cover as much of them as we can in the finite times that we have. Sometimes we kind of need a 5-hour program. Sometimes. But as you know, yesterday the House ended up rejecting an immigration bill 193 to 231. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The farm bill ends up passing the House by 2 votes. We'll talk about that one as well. But let's set that aside for a second. One bill or one issue that's been at the federal level, which it's sad to me that we even have to have a bill to do this. I don't understand why the government has to have such an iron grip control over what we do with our lives. It drives me nuts. But there is a movement, the Right to Try bill, that President Trump has, it looks like, has supported and has signed. The right to try giving dying patients, limited access to drugs that have not yet been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Why we need to even have to have a bill allowing this to happen, I don't know. But to talk about this issue and a heck of a lot more, she is the executive director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. It's Dr. Jane Orient on the line with us. Jane, how are you, my friend?
Well, it's early here in Tucson, Arizona, but it looks good.
Well, I appreciate you coming on so early with us. It is a really important issue as we talk about, the mainstream topics of Medicaid expansion and Obamacare and the healthcare industry itself that's been really struggling. And then we talk about the pharmaceuticals, the pharmaceutical issue, and something like this that is the dying patients that breaks our heart, whether it's cancer patients, no matter what type of issue that they're going through, and the fact that we can't allow individuals to try drugs that may help them even though they may not be approved by the FDA. Why do you think that we've had these types of regulations and red tape in there in the first place?
We have turned the power to tightly regulate what we can and cannot do over to federal agencies who are completely unaccountable to the public, and this is all in the name of patient safety, to protect us from drugs that might not work or drugs that are unsafe. Mm-hmm. Used to be they just concerned themselves with drugs that were unsafe, but now drug companies have to go through more than $1 billion worth of costs to try to prove that their drug works.
Sure. What drugs right now, and I'm sure you kind of follow this, some of the trends, what kind of drugs right now are close to maybe being approved by the FDA but haven't, and for what cause? Is it maybe pain medications, or is it for different maybe rare ailments, or is it for cancer treatments? Right now, what's been under the radar of stuff that some patients could potentially try right now?
I think most of the concern over this right to try bill has been cancer, chemotherapy drugs. As we know, all of these drugs are extremely expensive. They are very toxic, cause a lot of side effects, and they just don't work very well. And in order to get through the trials, you have to try them on a certain number of patients, which ends up showing that maybe on average they prolong your life by a month or two. But what people hope for is that they will be one of the lucky ones who really get a big benefit from the drug, which happens occasionally. But the argument is made that, well, if we don't force these drugs to stay off the market until we can get satisfactory results from our trial, then we won't be able to give people the assurance that the drugs are effective. Well, from the start we know that they're not very effective.
Sure.
So we have people who really don't have decades or even years to wait for these drugs to pass through all these hoops. But there is some outside chance that they may help them. And then it's argued, but the people might be hurt by the drugs. Well, yeah, they might. But right at the moment, they're dying. So why not allow them? I don't think that's a big
deterrent for them, right?
Make the choice for themselves whether they want to take the risk of dying a little bit sooner.
Exactly.
With the trade-off of maybe they'll live 2 years longer.
Sure.
I think it's really illogical to restrict access to drugs for people who are not dying also. There are a lot of people who have crippling, disabling conditions that do not have really satisfactory treatment right now, who might also want to try drugs that have not yet been through the years and years and billions of dollars of testing. And a lot of them are such that they're never going to go through that because there's just not the potential to make enough money from them to pay back those costs.
Sure, absolutely. We're talking with Dr. Jane Orient, Executive Director for the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, on the Right to Try bill. Where did this bill come from? Was it kind of an outcry from the general public saying, wait a second, as you mentioned, I'm dying, I got nothing to lose, I don't care if it kills me a month from now, if it has side effects, whatever, I want to try this. Was it the cry from the general public that started this, or was it the doctors and physicians that said we really need to give them the options for this?
Oh, I think it's probably a groundswell from patients who were affected by this. And a lot of states have attempted or have passed similar legislation to try to get the regulators out of the way of patients and doctors making their own decisions, to use their own money and to take their own risks in deciding whether they want to prolong their own lives or relieve the burden of some of these crippling chronic diseases.
Mm-hmm. Talk about the details of this bill. Is there still kind of some restrictions? What's being allowed with this? I mean, it was good that Congress was able to pass it. President Trump signed it. But what's some of the details of this right to try bill that ended up getting passed?
Well, I think that it's going to have a very limited impact because the drugs have to have been through a certain number of trials. And also the patients have to be able to get the drug. So the pharmaceutical companies have to be willing to provide it to them. Now, in the past, there has been sort of a compassionate use of exemptions, so some patients were able to get the drug. But there's going to be pushback against this by people who want their clinical trials to go forward, and they're afraid they won't get enough volunteers for them if patients can get the drug without volunteering for a trial, where if they can qualify to get in, which a lot of them can't because they're too sick, but if they qualify to get in, then they're going to be randomized often to not receive the drug. They'll be in the control group, and they're afraid that patients are not going to be really willing to accept that.
Okay, so it's even some buildup from the pharmaceutical side. Now, would there be some kind of compromise potentially in there to say, that if you maybe you wouldn't be necessarily qualified, but if you do decide to try and take some of these experimental drugs, that maybe we could see and track you a little bit and maybe use you as part of the data that we use, and maybe there's some type of work in there to where we can still get some information out of it. But as you mentioned, why be a guinea pig on there if you can just get it, as the experiment because you're dying off anyways? I don't know. I guess that is kind of a fine line to walk.
I think it would be a very good idea if we had much better aftermarket surveillance of drugs so that we could quickly identify adverse reactions that just don't show up in the trials because they're not very common. But insisting on this double-blind, randomized, controlled research is sort of a fetish that we have now, even though there's a huge amount of corruption involved in this and a lot of unsuccessful studies are buried. I think it would be much better if we would look at our methodology to begin with and see if we can't do, as you say, a much better job of assessing results in patients without the expensive mechanisms of a clinical trial.
Sure, absolutely. This bill, this right to try bill that was passed by Congress, and not to get too much on the political side of it, but was it passed by a bipartisan vote? Who really kind of moved this forward, and where did it originate from?
The details of that I can't tell you.
Okay, that's all right. I was just curious on that one because I know that as we mentioned, the pharmaceuticals, the Obamacare, the healthcare industry has been kind of a hot topic for a while. So where would this fall into if we end up moving forward with something like the more Medicaid, Medicare, Obamacare style? If we go back towards more of a privatized, would this bill be back in jeopardy if we go one way or another again?
I don't know what effect it will have on this bill. Americans are lacking the right to try insurance as well as drugs or other medical treatments that don't fall onto the accepted paradigm. As you mentioned in your introduction, the federal government has had increasingly minute control over all the decisions that we make, and it's usually under the mask of we're going to protect you, when actually what it's doing is protecting the special interest groups who benefit from their monopolies.
Sure. No, absolutely. Where does medical marijuana fall into this? I know a lot of states are trying to legalize that, but it's still illegal at the federal level. Does that fall into this right to try? Are more states beginning to accept that? And is that included into this bill?
No, it's not included in this bill. Marijuana is sort of may have been part of the driving force for this because a lot of people think that marijuana may be effective as a drug, but it's impossible to research it because it's a Schedule One drug, Schedule One substance. It's not available for any legitimate use, and so to get drugs for clinical trials is extremely difficult. So what we have these dispensaries like in Arizona or other states where medical marijuana is legal, but you get a little bag of weed and you don't know what the dose is, you don't know what the contaminants are. Mm-hmm. It's not packaged or regulated in any way like a drug would be. So that, I think, is really much more dangerous, and it just doesn't make sense that we are legalizing something like that, but it's illegal for patients to get a carefully manufactured drug of which you know the dose.
Sure. No, absolutely. Last couple of questions before we let you go. I know you're busy. Dr. Jane Orient, Executive Director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. Let's talk about just the advancement of technology and medication in the health industry as a whole. I mean, it hasn't, I really at least haven't seen it in the news as of lately. Have we seen some great technological advancements when it comes to pain medication or treatments in that sense, or have we kind of plateaued in the healthcare industry lately? I mean, where are we at when we're really trying to research new ways to try and cure new diseases?
I think that our research programs are mostly funded by the government, and they are under the control of these committees that are not interested in breakthroughs. They're not interested in jeopardizing what we already have. There is just a part of that is just human inertia, and partly it is self-interest, protecting your own turf. But when you don't have any alternatives to get funding for the research, I think it really is slowing progress.
It really drives home kind of the point that you hear people say every once in a while is that why find a cure for a treatment if you're making lots of money with the treatment that you're currently having just to maintain, correct?
Yes, I think Goldman Sachs made that observation that the money is not in curing disease. It's in keeping people on expensive medicines for the rest of their lives. And the particular disease that we're talking about was hepatitis C. It appears that there is a drug that will cure that. And that means that the patients don't have to keep coming back for treatment over and over again. Plus, they don't infect other people, and so you don't have a market for new people getting infected all the time.
Sure. Dr. Jane Orient, it's great to talk to you. Thank you for letting us know about this Right to Try bill. I think it's a huge bill. I think it could be doing wonders, and we just need to continue the advancement of that. So thank you so much for coming on the show today with us.
Well, thank you. It's a good first step that we need to have people pressing for more of.
Absolutely. We'll continue down that road one step at a time. I like it. Dr. Jane Orient, Executive Director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. Appreciate you very much on the show. Got to take a break. 21 minutes past the hour. It's open lines to you when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
27 minutes past the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Thanks again to Dr. Jane Orient joining the program, talking about Right to Try. It is so crazy how you're not even allowed to make your own decisions with what kind of medication, especially on your dying bed. Come on. I got a year left. I got 6 months left. I'm not able to try some experimental drug. Oh, it could kill you. Pretty sure I'm not too worried about that. Doesn't make any sense to me. 316-728-8255. Let's go to the phones, get your take on some of that and more. Line number one. Good morning. What's your name? Hello.
Hello, Andy.
Yes, sir. How we doing?
Hey, I'm not hearing the guest while on hold.
Yes, yeah. If you're on hold, then if there's a guest on the other line, you'll be able to hear me and hear programming. You just can't hear the other caller that's on the
So I should have my radio on too.
Yeah, just for that. But once you're on the air, though, then turn that down so we don't get the feedback. But yeah, okay. It is a little hard to hear some of the guests when you're on hold and the person's on the phone.
Well, I noticed there's a tape delay, and also you said this is Open Line Friday.
It is Open Line Friday.
So anything goes, huh?
Absolutely. What's on your mind?
Well, this is Rod, and I'm the guy that talked to you about changing your theme song from Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who to A Mighty Good Leader by Audio Adrenaline.
Ooh.
Because
That's right.
if the new boss is the same as the old boss, then we have been fooled again.
Well, that is very true. And hopefully, I mean, the goal is that hopefully we fix some of those so that way, I mean, we begin to wake up and realize, I mean, the whole, at least one of my messages or one of the missions that we have on the show is to try and wake people up so that they don't get fooled again. And the more people that we actually become aware of that, then we can actually start changing that. But you're right. We got a long work to go. We got a long road ahead of us.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sorry I missed your guest because I guess she's a doctor, and she might appreciate my one-liner. I wanted to ask, I was taught if you're going to talk about your toilet bowl, it should always be tidy bowl blue and never yellow or brown.
I like that one. I like that one very much. I appreciate it very much, my friend. Thanks for the call, 31672. I mean, it's a good point. It's a good point. I had a professor in college, my environmental studies, go figure, that always loved to do the figure, well, you know, we got to save the water, so if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. And she tried to get us to go along with that kind of policy in our dorm rooms, in our homes. And sorry. Yeah, just couldn't do that one. Thanks, hippies, but I'll pass on that one. Bottom of the hour news coming up. Lots more to get to. It's Open Line. See you when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier, your personal political therapist. Give him a call at 721-TALK.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. That's right, wrapping up the program today. It is a Friday. Great to have you along as we wake you up the right way, which we always love doing. So 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. I don't know if you heard the bottom of the hour news. National poll. Presidents shouldn't be able to pardon themselves. No, shouldn't be able to pardon yourself. I can't believe that you would actually do something like that. Give me a break. I don't know if you remember now, but President Trump was joking. That was kind of one of those, when he said he'd pardon himself. But people shouldn't be able to pardon themselves. Presidents should be able to do that. That's insane. What they're not talking about, I don't know if you realize, but there is a Rasmussen poll out that said voters blame parents, not the federal government, for border child crisis. For, the whole family's being separated at the border. And people, according to Rasmussen, the majority of them, 54% of likely voters, said that they actually blame the parents for breaking the law. Oh, man. Oh, I know it. That's a wild one. It is a crazy concept to think of that it's actually the parents' fault and their responsibility of them being separated from their children as opposed to the federal government stripping them away from their parents and beating the... I heard the story, and if that is true, then that is a complete abuse and way over the line, because that's not how it is supposed to be or how it was intended in any way, shape, or form. But the splitting of the families and the tearing apart of the families, and yet is it the government's fault for you breaking the law, or is it your own fault for breaking the law? And 54% of Americans, according to Rasmussen, say that they blame the parents, a poll you're not going to hear in the national media. 316-721-8255. It is open lines to you. For the last little bit of the show, let's go back to them. Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
Patrick?
Yes, sir. Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, sir?
Hey, we're living the dream every day.
Listen, just called to get a little clarification. Maybe you know the answer to this.
Okay.
I missed the news yesterday. I woke up early this morning, saw a clip on TV, but the only thing I saw was the First Lady boarding the airplane and looked like a 6-year-old had written something on the back of her coat.
Yeah, there was she was wearing a jacket that said, "I really don't care. How about you, or do you," or something like that, as she's going and talking to these children. Now, she had made the comment that she wasn't even paying attention to the jacket that she was wearing, and the fact that the media is paying attention to this is kind of the sign that it doesn't matter when she's going out and talking to children to show their support, but it's just what she's wearing. And, of course, the media has the frenzy about her wearing the jacket, saying that she doesn't really care about the children, that it's all just a PR statement, which is, of course, normally what they're going to go for. So whether it was a trick to say, look we're doing something good and all you can care about is one shirt, or whether it was, I don't know why or what, but it is funny that the media, of course, has to attack the fact that she's wearing a jacket that says something like that.
Right, but it was intentional that she was wearing that. She knew that.
Oh, I'm sure she did. I mean, she's got people that dress her every day for different PR statements and how she goes about. So I'm sure she was wearing it, and whether it was because she really doesn't care, which doesn't make any sense to me, because as the First Lady, the only thing that she has worked on as First Lady has been initiatives for children, so she obviously does care about the children. So I almost see it as possibly the, aha, look at how dumb the media is, because that's the only thing they focus on while I go about and actually take care of children.
Exactly, the fake news. I just every morning I watch the CBS morning news to see what kind of propaganda they're going to spew out in the first 20 minutes, so I know what's going on.
It's fascinating to watch them, isn't it?
It is, and they showed her getting on the plane, but there was no explanation. There was no anything, and I was curious as to what was going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read into the story because I just kind of found it comical and moved along. But of course, I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, she knows what she's wearing. She has people that help her with that. And if she's walking off the plane and one of her helpers or assistants or whoever sits back and says, "Wait a second, Melania, you may want to take off that jacket because that won't look good." She knew exactly what she was doing. So it just shows again, the media, of course, of what they're going to focus on, and they played right into her hand.
Well, I thought somebody might have slipped that in on her when they were helping her put her coat on and just didn't tell her.
That would have been funny too. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thank you for clearing that up. I was just curious as to what that frenzy was all about.
Absolutely. Yep. It's always these non-topical side issues that they love to focus on there. Patrick, I appreciate the call very much, my friend. It is funny, isn't it? I mean, this really shows again the brilliance of the conservatives and the Republicans and even Donald Trump himself is, hey, you know what? The one thing, I mean, Melania Trump's not whole into the, look at me like Michelle Obama was. She's very back in the corner and very in the shadows, and she's doing her own thing, and it's not really her niche, her thing. The one thing she has worked on has been the children's initiatives, taking care of children. And it's funny where she goes down to talk to children, and she wears a jacket like that to say, you know what, look, here's a test. I'm going to go down and help children, and I'm going to have this jacket on, and the media is going to focus on that, and then I can attack them for the fact that that's all they focus on. And guess what happened? Played right into her hand. It's quite ironic, isn't it? 316-721-8255. Let's go back to the phones. Line number 3. Good morning. What's your name?
Rod.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, Andy, I got cut off before I got to my main point.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, a one-liner, actually two.
Okay.
While reading Grey's Anatomy the other day, I was struck by the fact that just as women have two sets of lips, men have two heads. And men should not think with their little head any more than women should talk with their lower lips.
Wow. Well, that is true. That is a great point.
And it reminds me of old General Petraeus, who was drummed out of the army for sleeping with his biographer.
Mm-hmm.
It was said of the general he was taking orders from his privates.
Where you come up with these one-liners, let's keep it family-oriented, but yes, that is very true. Rod, I appreciate that very much. There you go, your bright spot of the Friday morning. Appreciate that. Let's go back to the phones. Line number 4. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, it's Deacon again. I got two things to say.
What's
quick.
going on?
Okay, first, the farm bill. Make it about farmers and get the welfare food stamp program out of there. That has nothing to do with farmers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and part 2, I'm going to say it on the air. I've sent you this in a message a couple times. Dude, you need to put Honor Never Dies by Hatebreed into your buffer rotation.
I'm putting it in this. Now, look, here's the thing. With my bump rotation, I have 150 songs that rotate, and it's just on an automatic rotation. So I'll include it in there. It may be a little bit until it actually gets played, but it is in the. I'll get it into the rotation with that, because I agree. I think that there are some very strong messages with some of that. So I do appreciate that. Yes, we will get that into that rotation.
Have a great day, brother.
I love
Appreciate you.
Very much, Deacon. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend, my friend. 316-721-8255. You're right. The Farm Bill, if you did not hear it did get voted on in the House. It passed by 2 votes last night. And the Freedom Caucus did get its stipulation of putting in work requirements into the SNAP program. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to go through the Senate. And I don't think, honestly, that it will go through the Senate. As leaders of the Ag Committee on the Senate side, Pat Roberts and Jerry Moran, I really, 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 really hope that they stand up and that they make a very loud voice on that bill and say, yes, we need to keep the work requirements in there. It passed the House. Let's pass it in the Senate. I know it's going to be a tight margin, but let's do this. And come on, they're the head of the Ag committees in the Senate side. Let's make this happen. Let's do it. This is important. Make the phone. That's the next activist movement that we could have. Make the phone call, pick up the phone, call your senators, call Pat Roberts, call Jerry Moran, and tell them that we want the House bill with the work requirements onto the SNAP program. It's pathetic. I agree, Deacon. It is absolutely sad that we have a bill that's supposed to be taking care of farmers and doing what needs to be done for farmers with crop insurance or with the rural broadband or whatever the farmers need in order to make their lives a little bit easier. In a world where they have no control over commodity prices, they have no control over the international trade, they have no control over what happens to their product after they grow it. I don't know why they do that. It's not their fault, but I get it, we need it, but I don't know how they survive in that type of environment where you have zero control over the outcome of what you actually produce. It's craziness. That's not a private sector, type of industry. And then we have a bill that's supposed to help them out a little bit, and we end up having social programs like SNAP in there to where 75% of the bill has nothing to do with farmers. Get it out of there. We've done it before. We can do it again, and I wish we could. But until we do that, we really need to be focusing on the fact that if we are going to have food stamps and SNAP programs into the farm bill, let's put some damn work requirements on it to make it a little bit more efficient, right? We can maybe start cutting some of the funding for SNAP just a little bit, or at least slow the growth of, even if we're not going to cut it. I don't see the cutting actually happen. So make the phone calls. Call Jerry Moran. Call Pat Roberts. Call your senators. Let them know that we need to support the House Farm Bill that did get passed in the House. It was a tight margin. And if it was that tight of a margin in the House, I highly doubt it's going to go through the Senate. But it would help if our leadership, both with Mitch McConnell and the leadership on this industry, like the Ag Committee, like Pat Roberts and Jerry Moran, would stand up with a firebrand, with a loud voice, and use their influence to start having to push people around if you have to a little bit and say, get this done. If we united as a Republican Party, if we rallied around one unison movement as a Republican Party against the real opposition, which is the Democrats, not against our own people in our own party, then we could get this done. But I'll name three names right off the bat that's not going to vote for it. John McCain, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins. They're not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. They're not going to support a farm bill that actually puts requirements on people to actually receive social programs. Oh, my God. Let's slip in one more phone call before a break. What do you say? 316-721-8255, line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Paul.
Hey, good morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
Andy, how are you doing?
Living the dream every day.
I'm dreaming of fried chicken on Friday.
I'm digging it right there. There you go. Get a piece of fried chicken.
I love fried chicken. Hey, I've been looking, maybe you guys could help me. I've been looking for some data about Kansas. I'm curious, can anyone show me where I can find data on how many Kansas family farmers are receiving food stamps?
How many Kansas family farmers are receiving food stamps? That would be an interesting number. I can do a little digging on that. I haven't seen any numbers like that, and I don't know. I mean, if you have a family farm, now you'd have to define what a family farm is, whether it's, an acre of, it's like a garden, or whether it's, 800 acres of land sort of thing. If you have the, 800 acres of land, I highly doubt that they're on food stamps, because the value of that land itself and the crop that they come in would usually be enough to at least survive. But again, with the price of the commodity prices and everything of that sort, you don't know. I mean,
you bring up a good point. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but maybe any agricultural business that's not on Wall Street, would that be a limiting factor? I mean, if they're publicly traded, maybe
Well, publicly traded would definitely be, but I mean, even
not
like
be a family farm, right?
Exactly. But
yeah.
but I mean, even like the quote unquote mega farms, to where it's thousands of acres and they have hundreds of ranch hands that aren't necessarily publicly traded, but are not a family farm per se either, because it is kind of a corporate kind of thing. So there's a really line. So I would first define what you want to see as a family farm, but I could do some digging on that, on how many family farmers, local mom and pop farms kind of thing, may or may not receive food stamps. That'd be an interesting kind of number. Paul, I appreciate it. We got to take a break. Wrapping up the show today. We'll get your thoughts and calls when we come back as well. Plus, we'll check in with Inman Harvest Cafe right here on a Friday, on a free-for-all Friday here on The Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker KQAM.
Reason, wrapping up the program today. Goes by way too fast. We could have had 3 more hours and had some more fun today, but all fun things come to an end. For now, just makes you look forward to it till the next time. This portion of The Voice Reason brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street in downtown Inman, just north of Hutch, as you are feeling the rumbly in your tumbly and getting a little hungry for the day. As fried chicken, I can smell it coming yonder from the Inman Harvest Cafe. Katie's back on the line with us. Katie, how's breakfast looking this morning? I've been dying, and I've been thinking about biscuits and gravy since last week when we talked.
Oh, I got plenty of biscuits and gravy.
Oh man, that's that. Yeah. I've been digging that, and for whatever reason, I don't remember the last time I had biscuits and gravy. Kind of needs to happen soon.
Yeah, and you know what's even better is biscuits and gravy when it's actually real gravy made with actual ingredients instead of a powdered mix or a can of gravy. Did you know they sell cans of gravy? I don't understand this concept. I don't get it. It's milk and flour and butter and salt and pepper. I mean, why would you want to? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway.
Well, some just have a really tough time making their own stuff. I mean, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
It's okay. That's, you know what? I always say it takes all kinds of people to make the world go round, and so.
See? That's a great way to look at it. That's a great way to look at that. I like that. Well, good. We have not only the biscuits and gravy that's going on today and all the great breakfasts this morning, but you do have the Fried Chicken Friday, fried chicken all day long with the buffet from 11 to 1, the big one from 5 to 8 o'clock. Other than the fried chicken and the roast beef that is every single Friday, what else do you have on slate for us today?
So today we made beer ox, and that was kind of a challenge to stick your hands into dough and make up these individual little pockets of meat and cabbage while also simultaneously cooking dozens of breakfasts. So that was fun. Sure. But it's over now. And then we're going to have what's called church potluck chicken casserole, and that's got chicken. It's got I've got 2 different kinds of cream of soups that I made this morning. I made a cream of celery and a cream of mushroom, and those will go together into the chicken casserole with some onions and some peppers and some mushrooms and some. We're going to put some, instead of a breadcrumb topping, we're going to put some crumbly cornflake goodness on top. So,
ooh, there you go.
Yeah,
or
we're
some
excited.
Chicken sprinkles.
Well, I know that's a great idea.
There you go. See.
Okay. So we're going to put chicken sprinkles on it.
I love it. Brilliant stuff right there. That's what I'm talking about. That sounds delicious.
We have to fry the chicken first, though.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So then if you come from 5 to 8 this evening, of course our buffet's going to come with pie. Mm-hmm. It always does. And we've got a full pie case this morning. So we've got coconut cream, we've got chocolate almond, we've got banana cream, we've got sour cream raisin, pineapple cream cheese, cherry custard, and then we've got a strawberry lemonade pie, and that one is in the freezer, so you have to ask for it. It's not in the pie case. You can't help yourself because it has to be frozen, but it is so good. It's like a breath of summer. Yeah.
A breath of summer. Yeah. How do you make a strawberry lemonade pie? Because I've never heard of anything like that.
Well, you take your strawberries and you crush them up, and then you take some frozen concentrate lemonade, and you mix those together, and then it's sweetened condensed milk and whipped topping. But you have to freeze it because otherwise it's a soup.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's like a soup.
It's like a wonderful soup. That's right.
Soup.
Good. Well, that is another one. I mean, you had the bumbleberry, which, of course, is, when the heavens part sort of thing. So the strawberry lemonade pie is going to be another one up there. That's going to be the next must-try sort of thing. The Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street. You got to check them out. The buffet's going on all day long today. Great food. And the wheelbarrow sold separately to get you back to your vehicle after you are all said and done. Katie, do you love it?
Andy, I actually had somebody ask me for one.
I love it. I love it. That's what we're talking about.
It was great.
That is fantastic. Inman Harvest Cafe. Check them out. 620-585-6925. Give them a call or inmanharvestcafe.com. Katie, you guys have a blast today. We'll check in with you again next Friday.
All right. Thanks, Andy. Talk to you then.
Always a pleasure there to see. You know what? People are listening to the show. You know that they're paying attention when you go there. Hey, can I get a wheelbarrow to come out? Yeah, see? There it is. Right there. We got awesome listeners. I love you guys. It's fantastic. Had some calls on the line. Sorry we didn't get back to you. We're out of time already today. We'll be back again Monday. Kick you off a whole nother week. We're getting ready for primary season. Get ready. Candidates going to be coming on the show quite often. We're going to have some fun with that. This is your show. As always, we appreciate your phone calls, conversations, and you just tuning in every morning. It's time to stay tuned. Time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Everybody have a great weekend. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM.